Well, hey, everybody. I'm so excited to have you attend this video blog. This is my first of the video blogs for Wellness Wikis this week. And let me just tell you, it could not have come at a better time. We're here with my great friend, Katie Kimball. Katie, she's a mom of four, two-time TedX speaker, picky eating expert, trained in the SOS approach to feeding. She's been teaching kids to cook since 2016, and she holds a really special place in my heart because, you know, after I wrote my book and everything, she really helps run one of the little masterminds that I'm a part of. So she's been a mentor of mine. She's really shown me the ropes. And I've got to tell you folks that I could not have a better guest for my first one because, as many of you know, if you got my email or you saw my Facebook post a couple of weeks ago, I asked the question, if my kids would just blank and blank, I would be giddy happy. And I didn't know what to expect, but more than any other comments that I got and emails were about picky eating. I got things about screen time. I got things about other behavioral issues, but picky eating was the number one thing. So of course I had to reach out to Katie as the resource and say, Katie, we got to answer some questions here and help some of these people. And I know that you have a challenge coming up in a couple of weeks at the end of February. It's only going to require, what, 30 minutes of time, 5 days, 5 times, that's it. Make one change a day, and you guarantee that that they're going to change the way, the kids are going to change the way they eat at home, right? I mean, and you'll talk about the challenge at the end. I just want people to really have really great content. So even if they don't attend the challenge, their lives will be better just for spending the next 10 minutes or so on this call. Is that cool? All right.
Love it. I love it.
Love it. Okay. So what I would love to do is, because I know that people's time is so important and I don't want to lose anybody's attention, I wanted to start with asking you some questions that we get as parents and as health experts all about picky eating. So I'm just going to dive in. You ready to go?
Absolutely. But I have to point out my shirt.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about your shirt.
I wore this fact, I don't trust fact checker shirt just for your audience, because I know they'll appreciate it, but also because people like you and I are rare, because we are not afraid to change our minds based on new research and new evidence. And so I just want to commend you for that and say that I'm that kind of person. Like, if I learn something new, then I'm going to change my perspective, or I'm going to hit a balance and say, I don't know exactly what the right answer is on hiding vegetables on your picky eater, because I just learned something about gut bacteria and it's changing the way I think, right? So I'm not afraid to be wrong.
I love that, Katie. Thank you for talking about, and thank you. You know, in our pre-show when we were talking in the what do they call the back room, whatever it is, right? We talked about the shirt, but I forgot to mention. So thank you for bringing that up. I love that, and I love your attitude towards that. And I think that our audience here is going to appreciate that as well. We always have opportunities to learn and to recognize when we can make some changes. So thank you for that. Awesome. So the first question I want to get into that parents want to know, right? My 4-year-old seems to eat great at breakfast and usually lunch, but dinner is a disaster. She won't touch what I serve. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, this is so common, especially for our toddler preschool crowd, maybe kids who are especially just starting kindergarten. And one of the possible answers that parents rarely think about is just straight up sleep. Okay, so sleep can be so connected to eating and to how we eat. And so especially if a family is seeing that trend, good breakfast eater, fine at lunch, and then dinner falls apart, it's possible that the child has hit the sleep wall and their physical need for sleep is simply higher than their physical need for nourishment at that moment. And it looks like picky eating, and it's just that they're so tired at the table. So some families find they need to back off dinner by an hour, or they need to resituate, or just tell yourself, man, if they're eating a great breakfast and a great lunch, then I just need to put my nourishment in those meals, right? That it's not always about the food you're serving at dinner. Sometimes it's just straight up the timing. And I love seeing parents of preschoolers' faces when they learn that fact. They're like, oh, no way. Like, that could be the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, we dig to the root cause, and sometimes it just has nothing to do with the dinner.
Brilliant. That's so great. And that's so great hearing, you know, you think you're going to get an answer about what it is that they're eating. And I know we'll get into those answers, but it's true. The sleep is such an important factor. And, you know, we know what happens when we get hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. It's not a good situation.
Exactly.
So awesome. Ready for a second question?
I am.
All right. My son used to love veggies and he won't eat them anymore. What can I do? Now, we're not talking about my son, because anyone that knows Zion, he just eats veggies. I mean, we made veggies last night. He scooped them up. He took them off everyone's plate. So God willing, Zion's 6 years old. Hopefully that always stays that way. But this is something that other parents struggle with. Kids, they used to eat veggies, but now they don't anymore. What do we do to reintroduce them and get them excited about them again?
This is so frustrating for parents. And I was this parent too, especially with my child number 3. He's now 10, Jonathan. But when he was little, I mean, I remember, we put little gold stars on ourselves, and we compliment ourselves like, I'm such a good mom. Like, my kid eats everything, whoop, whoop. And then they turn 2 or they turn 3 and they become, like, at least my John, he became a no green foods boy. And he loved to eat, and then he wouldn't eat anything green. And I was like, oh, so I took all the gold stars off, and I'm like, oh, I'm the failure as a mom. I did something wrong, and we take it so personally. And I think that's why that reversal situation hurts parents so deeply and emotionally. And it's super common. It's really just kind of developmentally appropriate, right? As children are shifting from like age 1 and 2 into kind of the 2s and the 3s, developmentally, they are trying to find their place in the world. They're really seeking to find the boundary where their control stops and your control starts. And so how do you do that? You push the boundaries. You push the boundaries. And kids somehow innately know that they should push harder when we are deeply emotionally invested in those boundaries, right? So as soon as they, test out the waters by not eating something, and we're like, oh, and we might freak out a little bit, and we might be like, oh, but you used to love that. Oh my gosh, but it's spinach. It's okay. They're like, okay, score 1 for the toddler. Not that that's conscious, right? But this is developmentally the stage that they're in. And so sometimes it's just that boundary pushing, and our job is to be emotionally dispassionate, to keep our boundaries where they are, to continue serving those vegetables and not worry. Many children, it's very, very common to go, quote, picky between the ages of 2 and 5, and at least 25% without any intervention will grow out of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And when I say no intervention, that's like, we can totally screw that up, right? But even such an, quote, intervention as being consistent and keeping those boundaries and continuing to serve vegetables with high expectations, now we're at like 50 to 75%, again, are going to come back to the vegetables by the time they're 5 or 6 or 7. And that's what my John did. I still remember the day that all of a sudden, I mean, we put that broccoli on his plate, one little bite, year after year. And all of a sudden, when he was in kindergarten, he put a bite of broccoli in his mouth and he announced to the family, hey, I like broccoli. Like, we all almost fell out of our chair because he was truly the no green foods kid. And so it just, for him, it just happened. And we see that a lot. Couple other possibilities for the reversal, for the root cause of that reversal, is that sometimes kids get chewing fatigue. Some kids don't have really good oral muscular strength, or they don't know how to move food around well with their tongue, especially if the vegetables, as a baby and a toddler, they were pureed or they were very well cooked, right? They're super easy to eat. And then as they're 2 and 3, they're starting to get into more raw, crunchy vegetables. And so some kids just aren't very good at chewing, and they get really tired. And so crunchy vegetables and real meats, right? Like not processed meats, not hot dogs and chicken nuggets, but actual real meats can be very fatiguing. And so sometimes those are the foods that the child will push away. Again, looks like a picky eater, but it could just be that they're getting tired of chewing and they need more practice. Or some need occupational therapy to like actually learn how to use their tongue.
Interesting.
The other thing that I think can come into play is stress. And that especially, right now we're filming this kind of, I hope, at the end of this pandemic, but who knows how long it'll last. But we know as adults, a lot of us are turning to comfort foods, and kids turn to comfort foods too. And so if some vegetables are new in their presentation, right? Like maybe they've had them before, but if they're cooked in a different way, that's a totally new food to a child, right? We think like adults, we think in food groups, categories, blah, blah, blah. To a kid, a Granny Smith apple, a red delicious apple, a dried apple, an applesauce with cinnamon, that's 5 different foods. Okay. And so if they've seen one often, that's their comfort food. They know how to eat that. They know what it tastes like. They don't have to work hard mentally or physically to encounter that food. If it's a little new, if it's anything new, sometimes that like feels like they have to work hard. And so if they're stressed out, they may push that kind of food away simply because it's not a comfort food, not a familiar food.
Oh, that's really good. So, I mean, 3 different reasons, 3 different strategies. And just to kind of summarize, going in there, because it's a really big topic. So the one is you're still serving it for them. But if they're not eating it, you're not forcing it until they're ready. Is that right? You're not going to be like, you're not getting out of the table until you finish eating. You're just going to let them do it. You're not going to bribe them or anything. Just let them do their thing.
Perfectly said. Pressure always backfires in some way.
Okay. And no bribery either.
Bribery is pressure. Yep.
Yep. Okay. And then with the second thing is, if the food is not, they can't chew for it or something like that, then you want to serve them softer food. Maybe steam the broccoli, the string beans, whatever it is. Make sure it's softer and they can get it down. And if it's meat, then you just find a way to maybe shred it or ground or something like that. And then the third one is find the foods that are good for them that they're going to really be comfortable with and let them just eat that as much as they really need to. Is that pretty much what we're at?
Yeah, well, and I would edit the third one just a little bit to say, yes, like include new foods, but just realize that that is a new food. And so a great plate for a kid who's starting to show some picky tendencies is, 2 comfortable foods, 2 safe foods they've seen before, and 1 bite of a new food, right? So at least we always want to have some safe foods for the kids. And I think, honestly, just raising the awareness of, for a parent to be a detective at the table and say, oh, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's my kid is just feeling stressed and is seeking the comfort foods, which again can point to the fact that they need to have different nourishment or something at breakfast. Like there's no rules in the rule book of the world that says you cannot serve broccoli at breakfast. We just don't tend to do it, but it's a great idea because kids, like adults, have more emotional capacity at the beginning of the day, right? They're fresh. And so a lot of times, just like, you know what I'm saying? If the parent can frame the situation and say, maybe the problem isn't the broccoli, maybe the problem is, the comfort foods and the stress, you can figure out a variety of ways to approach that in your family.
I think you bring up a great point there. I mean, we just had that last night. Last night I made rotisserie chicken, on the grill and everything. My son likes it. Sometimes he loves it. Sometimes he doesn't want to eat it. But one thing he typically really likes is with the leftover, I make chicken salad out of it. And so he said last night, I said, do you want to have chicken salad for your lunch tomorrow? We'll put it in your lunchbox. He goes, I want chicken salad for breakfast. And we're like, okay, it's not a breakfast food. You wouldn't think of chicken salad for breakfast, but why not? It's protein. He's getting what he needs and he's going to eat breakfast because he's not a great breakfast eater in general. He's not hungry in the morning. So we had chicken salad for breakfast. Great. We have to think outside the box as parents. I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, and that's fantastic too, because what you're doing is you're taking away some of the labels that we tend to put. So ultimately, your son's going to have an easier time being a better eater if he doesn't have those like really strict ideas of when food should be served. I have one of my kids has these very strict ideas. I'll say, well, she'll say, what do you want for snack? Or what do we have for snack? And I'm like, oh, the same things as yesterday. I haven't been to the store. But, we had broccoli salad for dinner last night, which this child loves. Why don't you have that for snack? And this child would be like, oh, no, mom, that is not a snack food. And so, so I somehow did that wrong. I allowed this child to put labels on everything. But if you can kind of bust through those labels, that's a great habit.
Yeah, awesome. Well, then kind of leading from that question, another question that I see come up a lot, looking around and stuff is that, the kids that they're stubborn, picky eaters, like they don't want to try new things, even if it's like one variation. You kind of talked about this before, but what do you see as the best way to introduce something new?
Yeah, this is great. We want to look for similarities and commonalities with a preferred food or with a safe food that the child already likes. And so this is where I love Dr. Kay Toomey and her SOS approach to feeding. She's kind of the foremost picky eating expert in the country. And so I took her certification. And one of the things that kind of blows my mind is when she says, like, kids think differently about food. It is how it looks, it is how it feels in the mouth, and it's how it tastes. It's not the name of the food, or like I said, the food group, the category. And so we as adults have to sort of dismantle our own categorizations of food, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner foods, or whether it's protein food group, fruits, blah, blah, blah. Like kids do not care about that. If they have a square cracker that is tan and a circle cracker that is orange, those are two wildly different foods, right? And we're like, it's a cracker. You like crackers, eat the cracker, right? So because we think like adults. And so I want to challenge parents to like shift your brain and see like, how can we look at the food, feel the food in our mouth, and figure out what's similar. So let's say your child has a preferred cracker. It happens to be, round and orange. In order to try to shift them to a new food, we want to look for some commonality, right? What can we find that's maybe round and orange and crunchy, but has a different flavor? Or what can we find that's square, but yet orange, but has a similar flavor? So you kind of want to change like one thing. Okay. So maybe it's one type of nut butter to another type of nut butter, but make sure it's on something that they eat all the time. Oh. Right. Or maybe it's, like I said, just a different color of apple, but yet cut in the same way that you usually cut it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's almost like as if you were to put the two items next to each other on the plate. Can you see how they're quite similar, just different enough to be noticed, but similar enough to feel comfortable? And that's going to be one of the many ways to introduce new foods to kids who kind of have that fear of food or that stubbornness.
So smart. If I had the audience here, you'd see them all clapping right now. I don't know if you can see the hands up there. That's awesome. And then the last question I want to get into, because I know we're running low on time, and I want you to tell about the challenge, because I want everybody listening right now. And if you don't have kids, talk to your grandkids or whatever it is to get them to do this challenge. But the last question I have, and this is a really big one, especially this coincides with my book, with Dream Wellness, is what about those kids that are living on carbs or sugars, and they're just eating, they just want candy, they just want things that they know are not good for them, but that's what they're living on? How do you get them off of those things?
Yeah, it's funny when I talk with families about food and about picky eating, which I get to do all the time, like through this challenge. I'll say things like, we want to think about the foods that maybe our kids gravitate towards. Like, what's the food that they eat first? And the comments blow up. The rolls, the bread, the crackers, right? It's a very, very big majority of kids who are attracted to carbs, right? And it makes sense. They're comfort foods. They feel good, especially if there's gluten. We get like that dopamine hit. It's not necessarily good, but it feels good to the kids. So like, and they're easy to chew. It's just kind of the whole package when it comes to the carbs. And of course, we know sugar is addictive, blah, blah, blah. So how in the world do we get them off of that? One of the strategies I teach, and we teach a 5-step process, so it's important to do them all, but one of the strategies we teach is called lead with your ACE. And that is when a kid is hungry at the very beginning of the meal, research shows that what hits your tongue first tastes the best. I mean, I think any of us would know that. Like, think about sitting down to a restaurant meal. Thank goodness the last bite on your plate doesn't taste as good as the first bite, right? Or we would all overeat in a terrible fashion. And so we're created so that our taste buds sort of dull as the meal goes on. So when do we want to serve what we want our kids to eat most? Well, it's at the beginning of the meal when their appetite is highest and when everything's going to taste the best. So I say, keep the carbs off the table and lead with your ACE. For most people, that's vegetables. For some people, that's fruits. That's what they really want to see their kids try. For some people, that's protein. But we want to put that out with nothing else on the table. We want to say nothing, so there's no pressure, right? And just create the environment where the child feels like they have choice and agency, but yet we have created an environment where they do what they don't. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's like that whole idea that the toddler testing the boundary, like we're going to set the boundaries, then we're going to walk away. So then that choice makes them feel good. And so many kids, I mean, I hear the funniest stories, Brian. So many kids will be like, no way, that's so stinky, I don't like that. And the mom's like, whatever, walks away and like sneaks the look, she'll like sneak look back and be like, hey, the child has picked up the broccoli, and he's like, and then he'll like put it back down and then like make sure she's not looking. I mean, kids are like intense about it being their choice. And so leading with your ACE has a lot of little layers, but that's a basic strategy. And some parents even choose to serve the carbs as like a third course. Okay. They like straight up save them till last. Really, really impactful.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. Anything else you want to add on that, or that lead with the ACE? We'll start with that for now.
Well, we'll start with that because when we get to sugar and desserts and carbs, that's like an hour conversation.
Got it. And that's what you're an expert in, which I guess this would probably be a good lead in then to talk about the challenge. And, you know, for those of you that are watching and listening right now or reading or however it is that you're consuming this information, just know that, you know, there's a date on this vlog and when it comes out, but Katie is so awesome. She does these challenges twice a year. So whether you're watching this in 2022 or 2025, there's going to be a challenge every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean wait 6 months or a year to do the challenge. If this seems like an issue for you now, take the challenge now, don't wait. But at least, you know, if you're watching this into the future, there's a good chance, unless we're all old and gray and, you know, like 110 years old, maybe we're not doing the challenge at that point. But there's going to be another challenge, so don't feel like you've already missed the opportunity. But Katie, please talk about the challenge that's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's become my favorite time of the year, to be honest. We get thousands of families moving together with a goal, right? And there's something so emotionally connected. I think about being in community and having other moms and dads and grandmas and aunties and preschool teachers come in who are like struggling with the same thing. You go, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. That's step one. I thought my kid was the worst picky eater in the world. They're not. That's great. And then we do one simple action step every day for 5 days. I am a grace in the baby steps kind of girl. I can't handle very much because I am a busy mom of 4. And so I know that y'all can't handle very much. So we just do one thing. And so day 1, we're going to talk about snacks. That's it. And not even the content of the snacks, just the timing. Day 2 is lead with your ACE. We talk about little nuances with that. And then we don't even get to dinner until day 3 because it's all about the environment. And so again, it's 5 days, it's 30 minutes or less a day of your time, one action step per day. And what we find and why I love it so much is because I get to see the immediate feedback and the parents get to see the immediate wins, right? So I get to see the pictures of the plates and I get to hear the stories. And as much as I love the picture of the empty plate, or the plate with like 2 bites left, that's beautiful. But I love the pictures of the plates even more where only 2 bites are gone. But the mom says, you know what? We had more laughter at the table. We talked more and we were fighting about food. Dang, that felt good. Right? So although over 50% of kids generally try something new during the 5 days, which is awesome, it's not even the goal. 85% of parents feel less stressed, which means their kids are feeling less stressed. And that's the big rock. That's what's going to make the biggest long-term difference in the picky eating struggle.
I love it. And what is the investment for parents?
This challenge is totally free.
Come on, what's the catch? Nothing's free. Come on, there's no free lunch. No pun intended. What's the catch?
You got to do the work. You got to do that. I will give you homework as long as you're not allergic to the word homework, but you got to do the work. But otherwise, yeah, it's totally free.
I love that. And that's one of the things I love about you, Katie. You got to get the message out there and you're doing it. You've been doing this for so long. Like you said, you're teaching kids to cook since 2016. You're the real deal. I've been watching you, following you for a long time now. You're aligned with some of the greatest people that I respect in my life and everything. So I'm so grateful again to have you in my life in so many different ways, professionally, personally. I don't have a picky eater, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be a part of this challenge. I can make 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Not 5 times for 1 week, not a problem. Yeah. And the dates are February.
This one, 2022 kicks off February 23rd.
February 23rd for 5 days, and it does not include the weekends.
Right. You get the weekend off to catch up, implement again, like grace in the baby steps. I'm very realistic.
Yeah, love it. So however it is that you're receiving this now, there will be a link to sign up for the challenge. It is free. And the link will be in the comments. It'll be in the description. It'll be in the email. However it is that you receive this information, make sure you click on that link, check it out, and look forward to hearing your feedback. I definitely want all of you in my audience to email me, message me, however it is that you reach out to me, let me know what you think about this. And, look, this is all part of our mission in helping families live their dream every day. And so, Katie, we're so glad to have you part of our community and to do so many more things together. I look forward to big things, big projects. Any last minute things that you want to say before we sign off?
No, I mean, I'm just so honored. I do want all parents to hear that you do not have to have a picky eater in your family. And that's the promise of the challenge, is that by the end, you will never again say, oh, I wish my kids would just eat what I make because of the reduced stress. And so if this one is passed, the same link will take you to a wait list with a little mini picky eating course. That's also free and leading into whatever the next challenge is. So we will continue supporting parents as long as I'm around.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being part of the Dream family. And thank you for helping us help others live their dream every day.